Is there any kind of a way you think just to, improve the fan experience when it comes to just the All-Star Weekend dunk contest every year?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One, the judging could be an issue sometimes. Not to bash anyone at all, but sometimes there's dunks that are being done in the NBA dunk contest that don't get a huge wow factor, but that are actually technically very difficult to do, right? So only pro dunkers would be able to know how difficult some of these dunks are, because even though some of the people who are judging might have been in the dunk contest in the past, oftentimes they haven't tried specifically what they're trying now. So I think having some of us as judges would be a great start. Also having us coach and help out these dunkers with picking which dunks, because we know the way that they jump, and we can easily look around the pro dunking world and just be like, okay, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And not just coaching in terms of what dunks to pick, but also coaching in terms of how to stay warm in between. And I'll watch the NBA dunk contest, and they will do so many things wrong. They not even in terms of the dunks, but what they do before and after, they could change, and it would get them a higher score. It's all about entertainment, and we've learned that.
A professional dunker, and I'm pretty sure you've seen his jaw-dropping dunks all over social media. We have the pleasure in welcoming Jordan Kilganon onto Hoopsology. How's it going, Jordan?
Going great. How about you?
Doing really well. Thanks for joining us. And with our podcast, my co-host who's not here today, we usually like just to talk about basketball culture. It's important just not only to talk about just the major headlines, but get into roots of why we love the game of basketball so much. So I just want to ask you, either take it in either direction. What is your first basketball memory or your favorite basketball memory?
I mean, growing up, I think it was watching Michael Jordan's free throw line dunk again and again and again. I think I've stared at that picture of him where, he's just like this in the air for hours. Especially being named after Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He was the one person that I really looked up to a lot. So yeah, definitely that.
So you mentioned Jordan, and as we record this podcast, LeBron broke the all-time scoring record. Can you kind of put into context the importance of Michael Jordan to a whole new generation of NBA fans that might not, have that connection with him? I think we both share an affinity for Jordan, just his impact on the game. For a lot of younger fans, they may not know he has just a huge impact in general. How much of an impact did he have on just your life? How much you emulated, not only his dunking style, like you're named after him, how much the impact do you think he's had on just your life in general?
Yeah, it's one of those things I'm starting to realize more and more how much of a real impact. I idolized him my whole life, and looked up into a bunch of his stories and his mentality. But to be named after somebody who is known throughout the world as being the greatest, being great, uh, I don't know. Even if you look into habits, how habits are made, you change your environment in a way so that it's easier to be motivated or to do this. Even having pictures of people that are inspiring to you on your wall is a good thing. Now imagine being named after one of these people, right? It's I don't know. Since I was a kid, I felt like I was maybe supposed to do something special just because I was named after somebody else who was special. So just in that sense, it changed my life to aim for something really great. But also, just in terms of dunking, of course, I don't think I would be into dunking as much as I am, or I wouldn't have gone into it as early as I did if it wasn't for Michael Jordan.
So just doing my research on you and just really following you for such a long time, just seeing you just on that TNT show and just your YouTube videos in general, you've had to say very much a linear path in terms of your rise, just in terms of your success. Can you kind of go over how you just started your career becoming a professional dunker, and what kind of trials and tribulations got you to this point to be just highly successful?
So for me, I guess way before being a pro I kind of found out that being a pro dunker was even a thing, right? So I was like, oh, it's almost like its own sport, you don't have to just play basketball and do dunking. And so I started dunking on 7-foot hoops, 8-foot hoops every day for 3-4 hours a day, sometimes 9 hours in a day. And then, yeah, I just got hooked. So for years I did that, and then got into like proper high jump type training and doing all my research. And then I kept posting videos, and I felt like I was better than some of the pros out there, or at least on the same level. But nobody was giving me a chance. I'm some kid like dunking on their
Mhm.
hoops like at home. You don't know if the hoops are like super low or anything like that, right? Like it's risky to give that guy a chance. But then Hoop Mixtape,
Mhm.
so Nils Wagner gave me a shot. He flew me out to LA, and then I got to dunk in front of all these people I've idolized my whole life. And I would just started going off because I had like crazy amount of adrenaline. It was like by far the highest I've ever jumped. Uh, and I started doing really well against them. Uh, so much so that like I went from being a kid who's like, we don't even know if he's good enough to be a pro, to like people calling me the best dunker in the world like that quickly. So that's pretty much how it all started for me. Uh, and yeah.
That's incredible. How has you think social media has really changed this dunking in general? I just remember, growing up and the only exposure was just watching, the NBA and just seeing dunking in that medium. Now, you can see it on all social media channels, and you're seeing really a new subset of just, in this basketball influencers overall, really become at the forefront of basketball culture overall, besides just their professional games. So, do you see, I mean, you're on the cutting edge. Are there any trends that you're looking at in the future that might change how you approach, the dunks you post on social media, just based on how rapidly things change on the internet?
Yeah, it is really interesting. I've noticed a huge change just myself very recently. So any sort of income before would have to be just from doing dunk shows and dunk contests. And now it's more and more just to do a TikTok or to do a YouTube or to do this. And that's starting to outweigh even going to events a bit more and more, uh, which is a beautiful thing. The fact that back in the day, my plan was to have another job, have a secure job, and then just obsessively do dunking, not necessarily on the side, but like in order to do dunking as hard as I could. But now with social media, like there's so many things you could do nowadays. You're really not limited to the kind of things you could do. So yeah, in the future, I guess it'll just be more of that. Like I feel like the way I'm being treated with like brands approaching me is more of an influencer, like a businessman, more than just a dunker, which is kind of a cool thing.
No, it makes total sense. And I just want to get into I guess, your process of when you create a dunk. Like, how many times does it take to hit one? Because I think a lot of people just they see just the end product and they don't realize just the hard work, just your mindset, the process of actually, hammering one of your most notable dunks home. You can't take like the viewer and listener through that process of just the concept of a dunk you have to actually hitting it, because I think it's just incredible, just the hard work you put in, let alone just the dunk itself. I think just the whole process is it's quite
Mhm.
amazing to see.
Yeah, so it can vary quite a bit. Like there has been times where I try a new dunk that I just thought of like in the middle of a dunk session and I get it first try. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And I go to try that dunk again and it takes me like forever. So that you can get lucky sometimes. That's the thing about a lot of these dunks. If you get lucky one time, you get it down. Um, Now there's some other dunks that takes hundreds of tries. Um, those are obviously much tougher. But the way to make those dunks is really it depends. There's one way to do it where you just combine a bunch of dunks together, right? So let's say we want to combine off the backboard, 360 in between the legs. There's a new dunk. Now instead of off a backboard, maybe do it off the side of the backboard. There's a new dunk, and you keep like switching those out, almost like a computer, right?
Mhm.
And doing that so much over time, you develop that skill to where like you can just think of that like nonstop. The other way that's more fun to me is where it almost looks like I'm doing a dance on the ground where I'm like, you see me doing this and like trying to visualize a ball going through different parts of my body or doing different things. And I'm almost like trying to force an accident, like trying to move in like random ways to force an accident. And then just watching it being like, oh, maybe that could be a dunk. That's another fun way too.
Are you influenced by other, just, I guess, peers like yourself? Like I'm on social media and I see a bunch of like different influencers doing all kinds of different things in terms of flips and other acrobatics, other dunkers like yourself. Do they influence what new innovations that you're coming up with too as well, or are you just basically coming up with these dunks basically on your innovations?
It's like 99.99% on my own, but I do keep an eye on other people, whether it's rhythmic gymnastics, with the ball,
Mhm.
or the trampoline dunkers are interesting to watch too. They'll come up, they have no limitations, so they'll think more outside of the box. So they'll come up with some cool stuff. And there's a couple other sports too, where freestyle basketball, like there's this dunk called the kamikaze. I did a 360 kamikaze not that long ago. That's was an idea from a freestyler, and me and this other pro dunker who used to be the best freestyle in the world. I told him to just freestyle, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually, I was like, "What's that? Is that possible with a dunk?" And then we both did it with a dunk.
So one of my biggest, I think, memories of you is seeing you on the Dunk King on TNT. And when I saw that show, I was like, "Thank God!" I was like, "Finally, finally, we get to see you and your competitors showcase your skills um, on a large platform." At the time, now I think social media is probably bigger, but at the time, on TNT, what was that experience like? What was that experience like? Just being with Charles, Kenny, Shaq, just with those guys that, their perspective of the game is of just more professional, the NBA, and just seeing this other subset of basketball culture that doesn't get exposed. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it's always interesting if people ask me what it's like when I do either a performance or especially a dunk contest, because I kind of black out when it comes to like everything
Mhm.
else. Like I'm so focused on the dunks that I need to do, and I'm not thinking about a single other thing. Like I don't really care about anything else. I'm just there to win, and I'm just like strategizing or really focusing, and I'm in the zone. And that contest took like maybe a couple days or 3 days, I
Oh
forget.
wow.
And I was actually drained after that contest just from being in the zone for that long. I'm used to just doing it for like a short period of time, like an hour maybe. And the entire time, like people would even try and talk to me, and my brother would be like, "Just no, he's in it right now." um, so yeah, it's tough to say. Although looking back, of course, it's the coolest thing ever. Meeting some of those guys, those NBA legends, is always such a fascinating thing. Especially Shaq. He's also really great with all the dunkers. He like will share things all the time. He'll send me like dunk ideas to try to.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, it's quite an amazing thing to be around those guys.
So, what has been the impact of just your success on social media to the pro game? I've seen you just dunk on multiple just NBA events quite frequently. Are they influenced by what you do? What is kind of their feedback regarding just your success in general? Because I think you're a leader in this medium. I mean, it's no longer back in the '90s just looking up to whoever's dunking in the dunk contest every
Mhm.
February. Now it's everybody like yourselves on social media leading the way. What are they saying about seeing you just on social media? The inspiration they get from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Some of them like will reach out to me, and that's the coolest thing to me, because I'm still a bit of a kid in some ways, where I really get super excited for the NBA dunk contest, uh, and it's super excited to like be around or talk to any of these NBA guys. Um, but now it's kind of cool that some of them are just we just chat once in a while, or like talk dunks, and yeah, I think that's the coolest thing.
Can you discuss just, you have a lot of experience with just NBA players in general.
Mhm.
And like myself, I am a fan of just the NBA dunk contest that happens every year. And just always just the debate of how to improve it. You're an expert, in this field. What can you see in terms of just improving, this contest every year? Is it bringing like yourselves, your competitors, showcasing your skills instead of just letting the NBA players just hang out and have fun and just having you guys to showcase? I mean, you guys are the professional dunkers, not them. So is that a way of just, maybe fixing the dunk contest, or do they want to get in on the fun, but just not have the pressure of just, I guess, fans just killing them on social media if they miss a dunk, which is very difficult to do.
Mhm.
Is there any kind of a way you think just to, improve the fan experience when it comes to just the All-Star Weekend dunk contest every year?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One, the judging could be an issue sometimes. Not to bash anyone at all, but sometimes there's dunks that are being done in the NBA dunk contest that don't get a huge wow factor, but that are actually technically very difficult to do, right? So only pro dunkers would be able to like know how difficult some of these dunks are, because even though some of the people who are judging might have been in the dunk contest in the past, oftentimes they haven't tried like specifically like what they're trying now. So I think having some of us as judges would be a great start. Also having us um, coach and help out these dunkers like with picking which dunks, because we know the way that they jump and we can easily look around the pro dunking world and just be like, okay, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And not just coaching in terms of what dunks to pick, but also coaching in terms of like how to stay warm in between. And like I'll watch the NBA dunk contest, and they will do so many things wrong. Like they not even in terms of the dunks, but what they do before and after they could change, and it would get them a higher score. It's all about entertainment, and we've learned that. As much as dunking is a sport, it's hugely just entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And so we developed that skill of being an entertainer. The other option that somebody else came up with, Connor Barth, would be that all the NBA teams have a pro dunker on their franchise. Um, and then at halftime shows of a bunch of the games, the dunkers would go against each other. And then maybe at All-Star Weekend, that's kind of like the finals where we go head to head, right? So then it kind of separates us where we don't need to go against the NBA dunkers, but we can have like our own thing that's also entertaining for the NBA. And we're also part of the NBA. That would be interesting too.
Have you proposed these ideas? I don't want to sound like I'm just. I think those ideas are incredible. I think that's the most insight I've ever heard about improving the dunk contest. Have you actually presented these ideas to the NBA? Because I think that's the perfect recipe of fixing this whole situation. I think.
For sure. Yeah. We're actually in the middle of talking about some things right now there. Don't want to say too much, but yeah,
Sure.
we're trying.
Well, you got a fan of me, and I will speak for my co-host. He will co-sign that idea completely because you're right. Because you go to an NBA arena and you have an official DJ, you have a PA announcer, you have an arena host, an official dunker. That makes perfect sense. Dunking is
Mhm.
part of halftime entertainment in these arenas all the time, every single game. So to have just a tournament that takes place, an official dunker for each team, and it takes place All-Star Weekend. That's a brilliant, brilliant idea. I hope they implement that. If any NBA officials are watching this, players, fans, please push that because that's an incredible idea. That's coming from myself, who's always watching the dunk contest, and I feel like disappointed and just it's just kind of like I don't know what it is. It's just like sadness at the end usually, and except for some exceptions. But I think this is a brilliant, brilliant idea, especially the way NBA embraces social media and just in terms of just having another hook to just going to an NBA game. I live in Denver, so just having another you know entertainment, I guess, reasoning just to besides watching the games, just watching that tournament go down, at every every single Nuggets game and just keeping track of other teams within the league in terms of their dunkers would be just incredible. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea too. Again, not my idea, Connor Barth's idea, but
Sure.
it's a great one.
So I want to just get where shift gears and focus on you growing up and just the basketball scene within Canada. This is something that I think a lot of American basketball fans are probably ignorant to. Can you guys kind of give insight to how the game is growing just within your home country, just in terms of seeing a lot more players from Canada go to the NBA and what the future holds with just Canada and the sport of basketball itself? Because just with Toronto winning the title, just I think that country embracing the game more, I think it's becoming a huge factor in just the future of the game globally overall.
Yeah, it's actually really cool to see the whole game grow, and it's not even just in Canada; it's all around the world. Like
Yeah.
the sport of basketball has really been blowing up, which I think is great because I think it's a great game. Um, but yeah, especially in Canada, growing up here and playing high school basketball, and now seeing like what high school basketball looks like, it's another level. Like these kids are like so much better now, and many more people are doing it. A lot more people are even just building basketball courts in cities. It's a great way. Like it doesn't cost very much. You just need to bring a ball and show up to a court. It's a great way to make sure people are doing things and not staying on the streets, kind of thing. It's yeah. So I just think it's really great, and it's definitely growing.
So, last question for you. What advice would you give just other aspiring dunkers out there that they see your clips and they really want to get into it and they may not be aware of just the work that goes into just hitting one of your dunks, just everything that goes, just the mindset, the preparation, the knowledge that you have. What advice would you give to them for, them starting out? Hey, they may not want to play professional basketball. They want to professionally dunk. What would be your advice to them?
Well, I think a few things. So one, don't be afraid to start on low rims, right? At low rims, I mean like 8 foot, 7 foot hoops, and just practice technique. That's what I did for years and years and years. I'm seeing that nowadays some kids are dunking on again, 7 foot hoops or 8 foot hoops and posting online. And some of them are getting many, many views because social media is bigger now. And of course, you're going to get a lot of like hate type comments, right? So some of these kids are stopping because they feel embarrassed that they're only dunking on like lower hoops. But that's how I started for years, So don't be afraid to do that. It'll work on your technique. You just have to, again, work on ignoring a lot of those like hate type comments. The other thing is social media, again, is huge. Back in the day, some people have said that social media doesn't really matter, and I think I'm the person that kind of showed how wrong that is.
Yeah.
Right now I get all my gigs and sponsorships through social media. Like it's what matters the most. And so it's not only just about like posting on social media, but like learning the skill of social media, right? When it comes down to even making a thumbnail, I know how to use Photoshop, and now I can like hire the people to do it. But making sure things look professional, because brands don't want to come after you if you don't look professional. And then the rest of it will just be the obvious things like consistency and hard work.
Well, Jordan, this has been an incredible chat. Thank you very much for joining the show. Can you please let our viewers and listeners know where they can find you on social media, where you can find your YouTube channel, any other projects that you want just the world to know?
So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all of them will be Jordan Kilganon. But YouTube and Twitter is Killer Junior 23. And I do have something big coming, so I can't say what yet, but just look out for it.
Nice. We'll be on the lookout. Jordan, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much.